whispering storyteller checking in to see how you are. As I may have mentioned a few times, this month marks the 14th anniversary of my YouTube channel, Whispering Storyteller. And as part of the celebrations today, we are going to make a cake together. Well, I'm going to make a cake and you're going to watch me. A slight cheat, I am making a box cake. A little bit of a cheat, and yeah, you're probably thinking, like a lot of my family and my friends would, why would I make a box cake when I can make cakes from scratch? I've done it many times, but today was a little bit of a tight schedule. So I saw this in the shop and I thought I would buy it and just cook it from scratch. It is a Cadbury moist chocolate cake mix, and all I need is 3 medium eggs, 100 milliliters of vegetable oil, 2 greased and lined sandwich cake tins, 160 milliliters of semi-skimmed milk and a whisk, and of course an oven. So we are going to make this from scratch, and if I could cut this up to 7,000 pieces and send it out to all you lovely subscribers, then I certainly would. But yeah, we are going to make this, so tune in and let's go down in the kitchen and make a start. Thank you. So first of all, in the kitchen I am going to preheat the oven to 180 degrees centigrade and let that heat up while I grease 2 cake tins. I put quite a generous amount of unsalted butter, so I use the foil from the actual unsalted butter that I'm going to be using for the icing. Generous amounts, and yeah, you'll see I'm using that. I could use the spray stuff, but I do like to use this, and I put a lot on just so the cake mix can't stick to the tin itself. Doing that quite rigorously, and thick amounts of butter, so put them to one side, and next we are going to look at the cake box to see what the next bit of instructions is. And yeah, it is to measure 100 milliliters of vegetable oil, so I'm just getting that out of the cupboard. There we go. And pouring that in there, measuring 100 milliliters. Brilliant. That's that sorted. And next we are going to have a look at the next bit of instructions. There's something quite therapeutic about baking. It's a nice way to spend the time. So I'm pouring the oil into a big bowl, and I'm going to then add some other items to the bowl. 3 eggs. So I'm just going to crack them open and put them inside with the oil. I love it when the egg yolk just gloops out of the shell. Doing the obligatory bit of tapping, but there's no mic on the camera at that point, so it probably didn't sound very good. And there we go. Now I'm going to add also 160 milliliters of semi-skimmed milk. Semi-skimmed milk. 160 milliliters of semi-skimmed milk. Milk, 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 milk. And add that to the oil and the eggs. seeing everything blended together and changing colour. Whisk, 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 whisk. I just decided to move the butter out the way there. There we go, that's starting to go nice and thick and combined now, and frothy. So next we are going to put the cake mix from the box. So all of the flour, the cocoa, everything is already there. A little bit of a cheat. But nobody's really that bothered. I've made plenty of chocolate cakes from scratch, and I always enjoy it, but I really am limited on time today. So in that goes. Just make sure every little bit of the mixture is in the bowl. There we go, and I'm just going to just stir through the flour just to make sure that it's all even, which it is. Nice and fine, so I'm going to add that mixture to the cake mix. And it's gone nice and thick, and but the idea is to add it gradually, little bits at a time, and just watch that start to kind of mix together and form a nice thick chocolatey gooey mixture. It's getting a bit stiff to whisk now, so I'm just going to add that remaining bit of that nice golden mixture, and just finishing touches there, get that all combined. All combined. I can hear the oven whirring away in the background, and the oven is starting to get very hot, ready for this lovely cake mixture. So it's going all smooth and creamy. It does actually ask you to use an electric whisk, but that's not very good for these kind of videos where we want to relax, so I decided to use the hand whisk. Even though it is getting very stiff and it's hard to kind of whisk through, but I'll manage. So we just want the consistency to be nice and thick and creamy. You can overmix it sometimes. We don't want that. We certainly don't want that. Just giving a few more moments of whisking. Do you remember when you were a kid, when your mother used to be making cakes and you always wanted to dip your finger in the bowl? It always tasted so yummy. And that's gone into a really nice smooth paste there, as you can see. And it's got a nice silky kind of consistency too. Yep, looking good. I think this might be okay to start thinking about pouring into the cake tins now. So let's try and get as much off the whisk as possible and get these two cake tins ready. And there one goes. Looks about the right amount. And then I will do the same with the second cake tin as well. Okay, now we'll do the scraping out of the bowl and try to keep it even, or aim to keep it even as much as possible. get a spoon just to try and scrape the rest of that ball out. That's better. And this is where you would kind of get the remnants of what was in the ball. They look close enough, I think. There we go, there's not much left at all in that ball now. And have a taste. Yep, very nice indeed. Right, so the next job is going to be to get these into the oven. There we go. Into the oven they go. So while they are cooking away for around 20 minutes or so, let's make the icing, the frosting. So I'm going to put 50 grams of cocoa into a jug. This is Cadbury's cocoa, so that it kind of tastes the same as the filling, as the cake itself. That's about right, 50 grams, and I'm going to sieve that into a bowl. So let's get that sieved now. Just make sure everything's in there, and just push those little hard clusters in. So then we've got some nicely sieved fine cocoa powder. The next thing we are going to look at is some icing sugar. And for the icing sugar we are going to put 200 grams into that. So I'll just reset that and I can start to add the icing sugar. It's all going in the same bowl, so it doesn't matter that there's bits of cocoa powder still in from the last thing we did. So just spoon in the icing sugar, and it's starting to cloud in the air. That's the problem with icing sugar. It's so fine, isn't it? We're getting near the 200 mark there, just a tiny bit more. Yeah, that will do. 200 grams, there we go, on the nose. 201, but who's counting, eh? Get that in and sieve that together with the cocoa powder. And we will sieve that too into the bowl. Try not to cough with all this powder that's in the air. And just push that through. It's so much easier to mix when it's all nice and fine and sieved. So with a nice clean whisk, we will just mix that together, the cocoa powder and the icing sugar. And that seems about right, so we are going to add in the unsalted butter now. So I'm going to soften that up a little bit because it's been out for a while, but it's at room temperature. as soft as possible, just so we can make that nice chocolatey frosting for the top of the cake. You can even melt it. Sometimes it's even easier if you put it in the microwave just for a few moments, just to really soften, and it starts to turn to liquid. So I'm just going to add the icing sugar and the cocoa to it in sections while we start to mix that in, and hopefully get a nice creamy smooth and creamy consistency, a little bit like the cake mixture was, but just it needs to be a lot thicker and stiff, where it would kind of stop in peaks if you lift it up. So because the butter's still quite hard, it doesn't seem to be melting in as quickly. I'm going to put a spoonful of vanilla essence in as well, just to kind of add that little bit of a taste, a nice sweet vanilla-y taste to it. And give that a good stir and mix in all that sugar and cocoa into the butter. And let's get the rest in. It's easy to use the fork because it actually does cut through the butter a little bit easier. Yeah, this is one of my favourite parts of the cake, is the lovely frosting that goes on there. And we're just going to keep going a little bit, and it will slowly start to smoothen out and go darker. Yeah, just adding a feel there just to see how it's doing. And yeah, I've fast forwarded just a little bit longer, and you can see there that it has started to really mix in nice and softly. And it's that nice thick consistency that we need to spread it onto the cake mixture itself. Now I set my Alexa to go off after 20 minutes to remind me about the cake, which is, which is coming away quite nicely in the oven. So we are going to put that lovely chocolate icing to one side in a few moments, and we're going to check out how the cake is doing. That's really nice, actually. Very nice. Right, okay, let's get that fork in the sink, and let's put that icing to one side. I do enjoy baking, as I mentioned earlier. It is a very therapeutic way to spend your time. So I'm going to give the bench top a nice clean. Okay, so that is now out of the oven. And I did insert a skewer, and there was no cake mixture on there. So we're now going to put these onto some cooling racks. upside down. There we go. And do the next one that's also ready to come out of the oven. Let's get the next tin. There we go. And again, let's turn that one over. And the cake tin comes up very easily because it was well greased. They're piping hot and they're nice and soft and springy to the touch. So what we're going to do next is let them cool down somewhere for around an hour or so. So here we are an hour later, and they are nice and cool to the touch now. They've been there for around an hour, and in the time I've been out to the shop and I bought a Cadbury's flake and some Smarties just to decorate the cake with. So I covered over the icing just while we were waiting for the cakes to cool down. And what we'll do now is get one on there. Now I always do the outside to go in the middle just so that it covers all of those bumps. So they go in the middle of the cake. So we are going to spread some of that chocolate icing to go in the middle of the cake and to seal it. Two halves together. So I'm using a kind of a smooth knife. It's a butter knife. I did have a big palette knife, but I can't find it for some reason. So I'm using this smaller one instead and just spreading over that chocolate icing into a nice smooth circle. And as I mentioned, that is going to bind the two halves together in a sandwich filling. That should do it. And we'll get the second half on now, and again turning that upside down. Pressing that down until it forms it's like a large biscuit with a filling in the middle. So what we need to do now is to start to fill around the edges with the chocolate filling. So I'm going to have to keep that down and go around it while the cake is laid flat, just because it's quite tricky if you're lifting it up. And just go around the whole area of that. I'm trying again to lift that up so you can see it. But it's quite a tricky thing to do. It smells really good too. On the tray now, so I'm going to have to lie it flat and just finish that off. Again, just touching up, filling up all of the holes. Just so we've got a nice smooth edge all around the cake. Nice smooth edge all around the cake. Now I didn't realise that at the time, but I didn't do as much as what I needed. And as you've probably noticed, it's taken up all of the icing just by doing the edges. So I had to make another batch. And you'll probably notice that another amount just magically appears from nowhere. So again, now I've done that, I'm just going around just smooth it all off and make sure that there's no holes. And as you can see there, that's looking nice and sealed together now. And we're ready to do the top. And again, I didn't have as much as what I needed, so I had to make some more. And here we go. A nice freshly made batch of fondant icing. Nice and smooth and chocolatey with all that Cadbury's in there. And we're just smoothing that off nice and evenly as much as we possibly can. And again, we're going to go around the edges just to seal and cover what we've done just a few moments ago. Now this doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to dust this with some Cadbury's flake. Cadbury's flake. And there we go, that's me just starting to go around the edges just to smooth it all off and make it look consistent with the top. Chocolate cake can be an incredibly messy affair as well, and it gets everywhere on your fingers, all over the worktops. But it is super nice just to have a nice slice of chocolate cake. Again, celebrating my channel's 14 years. Can you believe that YouTube was only 6-year-old when I started my channel? We were a small community of whisperers. At the time, this is way before ASMR had a name. So many channels have grown in the ASMR community now. But this is my celebratory cake, and getting very near its completion. And again, like I said before, we don't have to be perfect here. It's got to be covered over slightly. You could just keep going on and on and on to seek perfection. You've sometimes just got to say, well, there we go. That is my cake. I'm just seeing little gaps in the ice in there that I'm just trying to fill just so it looks nice and even. I think that looks okay, to be honest. Okay. Alright, there we go. That is my finished cake. I'm quite happy with that. And one for luck. Yummy, yummy, yummy. It is very good. Alright, we are going to do some Cadbury's flake stuff now. So I am going to crush the Cadbury's flake in my fingers. It's really crumbly and lovely milk chocolate, and just try and get that down so I can just dust the top with pure Cadbury's chocolate. it's doing. Now there's little lumps, and then I'm trying to even out the lumps as much as possible. Should we have a good dust in it? See how it looks. Let's go. Some of those lumps don't look so good. So I'll try to squish them a little bit. I think the idea is that it doesn't look perfect, just nice and edible is the main thing. Try and get out those lumps as much as possible. And just try and make it nice and even over the cake. Nice. Brilliant. And Cadbury's chocolate is absolutely delicious. I love it. It's my favorite. So let's now open up these Smarties. Not a very sophisticated cake, I'll give you that, but it's a fun one to make. So the idea is we are going to make the number 14, which is the number of years my channel has been operating, and we'll put that on the top of the cake. Smarties are in just about every country, I think. So we'll make a 1 and a 4. 2011 to 2025. Try and space out the colours a little bit. It's a bit tricky. I just want the 4 to be something you can see. I'm going to have to put that further down. A different colour because we've got a blue there already. There you go. 1, 4. See if I can just make it stand out a little bit better. Two pinks together. See if I can get something in a different colour. Change that brown one, which doesn't stand out so much. There we go, 1, 4. And what we can do now is maybe think about lighting a candle for the birthday itself. There we go, found a candle. And let's stick that in and let's light it. Isn't that nice? Well, happy birthday to Whisper and Storytime.